So we're going to talk about neurons just for a second. So you have, this is like the soma or the cell body. Inside the cell you have a nucleolus and a nucleus and mitochondria, which is the mighty powerhouse of the cell. You also have on the outside, these little things are called dendrites, which deliver the message into the cell. Okay, to me it looks like I don't know, I always want to say it looks like an axolotl. But these little messages, these bring the messages in to the cell body or soma. And then you have this like long tail-like structure. Think of it as like kind of like a highway. This is called the axon. So the dendrites deliver the message in, and then it's going to go through the axon. And they have this like, some of them have like this like sheath thing here. It's called myelin sheath. It's like a waxy substance. And they'd have like these little helper cells off to the side that make them. And I'm not going to really draw those because they're ugly, but especially how I draw. But this is like the myelin sheath. It's like this waxy substance that supercharges the message. It goes a zoom through the axon. And then at the end are these axon terminals. Okay. These are like branches. They kind of branch out, right? And then in between this cell and another cell like it is the synapse. And in that space are neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. Okay. The reason why I'm showing this to you is because a lot of the research, like memory and stuff, they use a lot of crazy terminology. They'll talk about neurotransmitters and like axons and all this kind of stuff. And so it might not make a lot of sense. But if you think about this, like all of the messages that go throughout your entire brain and body are sent with these little cells. They don't all look like this. Some of them look different. There's different bipolar, this one's a bipolar one, but there's all different kinds of different types of cells. Like bipolar means there's two, like one pole, other pole. So you have different types of neurons that are messaging throughout your body. You have sensory neurons bringing messages into your body through your sensory organs, and you have motor neurons that are relaying the messages back out to say what to do with that message, right? So it's kind of ironic that I've had some issues with memory loss and some issues with pain disorders and things like that happening over my lifetime. And I have an aunt who has Alzheimer's, and I have, I've had family members who've had dementia and things like that. And my father recently passed away from Parkinsonism. And so I've been really delving into these different researches that, different research projects that have information on how to improve your memory and see there I am. I need to improve my memory. So whatever you can do to get the message in, through, and out and relayed to the next cell is going to be beneficial. It's going to really help your brain, and it's going to really help us to have everything functioning throughout our entire bodies, because these neurons are everywhere. They're not just in your brain. They're relaying information from your body to your brain and then back out again. So if these cells are not operating properly, if they're not getting everything that they need properly, then everything is going to malfunction. I remember being told when I was like 16 that I had a serotonin imbalance. I had no idea what serotonin really was, other than my counselor at the time said it had to do with getting messages through. So that would be this like serotonin, dopamine, neurotransmitter soup that's between the neurons, and you really want to increase that to get that functioning well. So I'm going to talk to you guys about some research that other people have done, and I'm not going to be able to cite all my resources, but whenever I watch those infomercials on TV, which I'm sure you see too, like in between shows that you're watching, you're going to see all different kinds of commercials for like, oh, are you having problems with this or that? And what should you do to combat that issue? And it always ends with a product that they're trying to sell you. So whenever I see those, I literally pause those videos and I research what can we do that's natural to boost those things. Now, if things have gotten really, really, really bad, you might need some kind of medical intervention. But what can we do before it gets super bad? Or what can we do, without taking drastic steps? And all of the things I'm going to mention here are things that don't take a medical prescription and should be healthy for almost everybody. Oh, obviously check with your doctors, but I'm not selling you anything, and I'm just going to give you the ideas that I have researched. So first, sometimes it's hard to make big changes, but some of the changes that we need to make, are things that we want to avoid, which is, and I also want to tie this back to gardening, because this is all about how can gardening save your mind, how can it save your brain, and possibly your life. So you want to avoid being sedentary. So when you're gardening, you're being active. You're outside. You're in fresh air, you're moving around, you're bending down. Yes, you can have raised garden beds. Eventually, things start to hurt and whatever, but you shouldn't avoid, if you don't use it, you lose it. So if you stop bending down, you won't be able to bend down. If you stop picking things up, you won't be able to pick things up. So yes, we can make some of our spaces a little bit more accessible and a little bit user-friendly, but you don't want to avoid ever picking things up or ever bending down, because at some point you won't be able to do those things anymore. So you don't want to be sedentary. So gardening is a very active pastime, if you want to call it, like a hobby or something, but gardening gets you moving. That's for sure. And it's in a way, it doesn't feel like you are exercising, but you are. And if you do a really long day of gardening, you'll feel it the next day. But it's a way to kind of trick yourself into doing things like, if I go to a gym, I hate the feeling of walking but getting nowhere, or wasting my energy lifting and pushing and that kind of stuff when it doesn't seem productive. So I like my energy to make something happen. So if I'm gardening and I'm lifting bags of soil and I'm shoveling soil and I'm seeing a difference, I'm digging a hole to plant a tree, that's very, very active, and you're getting something done. So it's being productive, and it serves a purpose. So it's going to definitely eliminate this issue of being sedentary. And even in the wintertime, I go out and I'll take cuttings from trees. I try not to do it when it's too wet, because I don't want things to get, diseased. But I'll move soil from one place to another. I'll move things from one place to another. I'll stack things and organize and those types of things. That really helps you to not be sedentary. Another thing is you want to eliminate artificial sweeteners. Now, things like aspartame, we should know, are really, really bad for us. And my doctor will always say, you got to stop with the sweet brain. All of the fake sugars, even the real sugar, everything has so much sugar in it. Even savory things these days, there's sugar added to it. So you really want to, one thing, eliminate the sweet brain, like she says to me all the time, because it becomes like an addiction. And the thing that I would add to this is that whenever you have something artificial, this is what I'm saying. I've never heard anybody else say this, but whenever you are having something artificial, like let's say even like candy. So you're craving something tart and you have a Sour Patch Kid. Your brain now thinks it got what it was looking for, right? You were craving something. Maybe you needed vitamin C because that tangy, sweet flavor that you would get from an orange or other citrus fruits had vitamin C. Your brain told you to grab a sweet tarts or Sour Patch Kids or whatever like that, and you grabbed candy. Now your brain thinks, oh, I got what I was looking for, and that sensation of I want vitamin C passes, but you didn't get vitamin C. So now you have your brain was trying to send you a message to tell you what you wanted. When you're craving something salty, okay, well, maybe you need iodine. Maybe you need omega-3 fatty acids. But when you have French fries, or potato chips, instead of having purslane or kale or, some, fish, whatever it was that, that your brain was literally trying to tell you what you needed. But by having that snacky, fake, artificial stuff that we replace our, everything good with, when you have that sensation went away, it tricked your brain into thinking you got what you wanted, but you didn't. So basically, we're getting fat, but we're starving. We're starving for all of those things that our brains are trying to tell us we need. So if you are craving something sweet, you probably need fruit. Okay? If you're craving something tart, you probably need vitamin C. If you're craving something salty, you probably need something with iodine or omega-3 fatty acids. So maybe you need some miso soup. Maybe you need, something, like that. Maybe you need to have a salad with lots of spinach. So you want to make sure that you think about before you indulge in something fake, even if it's real sugar, but like it's fake fruit. Okay. It's fake nature's candy. But you definitely want to get away from aspartame and all fake sugars. And that the major culprit in here is like diet soda. And that is my vice. Every once in a while, I don't usually buy soda in the house. I don't like real soda. But I do like Coke Zero and Pepsi One. I like that. So I have to not have it in my home. Otherwise I reach for it. So you might need to also do the same thing. Just don't buy it. Don't have it around. It's a temptation. So you got to get rid of those artificial sweeteners. My doctor says that to me. I already knew it, but sometimes having someone tell you directly is helpful. So eliminate artificial sweeteners. They're going to get in your way. They're going to prevent you from knowing what you actually need. Okay. So don't be sedentary. Eliminate artificial sweeteners. You want to avoid neurotoxins. So avoid neurotoxins like mercury. And mercury is in like fatty fishes, which you do want omega-3 fatty acids. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't like the flavor of seafood, but like if you eat swordfish and I think it's ahi tuna, something like that, they can have mercury in it. Mercury is a neurotoxin, and that can really disrupt everything. So you want to avoid mercury. I don't know how to avoid or to know if mercury is in your fish, if you're eating fish. But I do know that there is, I'm going to replace this. So I'm on the side here. We're going to plant purslane because purslane is high and omega-3 fatty acids. So if you're trying to get the benefit of things that you get like in seafood, and you think that the brand of tuna or whatever you're eating might be high in it, high in mercury, then grow and eat purslane as a replacement. That's great, right? I'm going to pull a note here for artificial sweeteners. And I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to break my doctor's rules with fake sweeteners, because she didn't seem to understand when I said to her, I grow stevia. And she's like, well, that's fake. And I said, well, actually, stevia is a plant. And so I don't mean like by going to the store and buying stevia and putting it in everything. I mean, like, if I plant stevia and I take a little twig of it off of it, like a little couple of leaves and stuff, and I put it in my tea, I think that's okay. It doesn't make it super, super sweet if you're taking it from plant form, and it has a really earthy, green, kind of grassy flavor to it. So I don't think that that's going to give me sweet brain. It's not a lot. And we still like to have fruits and vegetables that have sweet flavors to it. Carrots are very sweet. Beets are very sweet, like especially sugar beets. So what I'm going to do is replace everything with a healthier alternative. Is it perfect? I don't know. There's no such thing as perfection. But so my alternative for being sedentary is I'm going to garden. And I'm going to do that with gusto. So gardening, and I'm not going to make every single thing easy on myself. I'm going to make some things easier on myself, so that even if I'm having a joint day where my joints are hurting, my back is hurting or something, I can still go outside and be active, get fresh air, get sunshine. Because one of the things with your brain is you want to get vitamin D. Well, with vitamin D, that's also through sunshine. You can take a supplement, talk to your doctor, but getting sunshine is really important. So being outside, gardening, moving around, have some things that are easy enough so it's accessible on the days that things aren't feeling great, but getting outside and doing stuff. Trying not to have so much artificial sweeteners in our diets. If I'm really feeling like I need to have something sweeter in my tea, then I could have stevia. I almost can't drink coffee without sweetener, so that might mean drinking less coffee and more tea, because tea I can handle with less sweetener. And then growing and planting purslane to avoid neurotoxins and fish that might be contaminated with mercury. What else do we need to avoid? Let me think for a second. Oh yes, stress. So this is definitely one of my problems, is that I have chronic stress. I'm a middle school teacher, a middle school science teacher. In this day and age where there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of pressure from parents, and students want everything to be bling bling bling, like everything needs to be super entertaining. So you've got that stress, and then if you please one set of families, you're making somebody else unhappy. Like, you can never please everybody. And then you also have district things changing, and state things changing, and national things changing constantly. They're always changing our standards on us, always adding more and more supervision and things to our plate. So I don't know that I can avoid stress entirely, but I will say that gardening helps me to manage my stress. It is really hard for me to be in a green environment, looking at nature, something beautiful, watching the birds and listening to them, and like seeing something grow. Like, that to me really helps me to mitigate my stress. So we're not going to be able to get eliminated, because if I didn't have a job, I would have other stresses, right? So you have financial stresses. I wouldn't feel like my life was important, whatever it is, like whatever that stress is. It could be financial stress. It could be relationship stress. And I can tell you right now, I have like an unhealthy amount of stress in my life. So we need to learn how to mitigate our stress, because we cannot eliminate it. So to mitigate my stress, gardening really, really helps me. So remembering to get outside in my garden, and I Years ago, I was like, you know what? I can't go outside all the time. It's so cold. It's dark at night. It's dark at like 4:30 sometimes. But to mitigate my stress, especially going into the new year, I always think about New Year's resolutions. I'm going to take more walks. That also gets back to being sedentary. So walking more, gardening more, spending time out in nature more, is really important. So that will be very helpful. These are the traps that actually really hurt us. Another thing to avoid would be not getting enough rest. And I'm going to say rest instead of sleep, because you can't control how much sleep you always get. You can improve it, but you can't always control it. Like you might have some kind of sleeping disorder, like sleep apnea. And I tried the machine, the CPAP machine. It didn't work for me. I would wake up and it would be off. And like subconsciously in the middle of the night, I would panic and rip it off my face. And I ended up failing the sleep apnea test. So I had to return the machine. My husband said last night before, he said he thought I stopped breathing. And he was really scared. So I can't get enough sleep necessarily. I can try to get more rest, even if it's not sleep. That would be helpful. And that means not overcommitting to do things that takes up time and energy, because that time and energy, you do need to balance having enough rest. And if you can sleep through the night and get good rest, please do that, because getting enough sleep is going to really help your memory. It's really going to help your brain and your overall health. So, trying to not overcommit is a huge thing that I need to work on. You need to think about what it is that interferes with your rest. Like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, my issue would be like, I would have this overactive brain at night, and I would just lay there thinking, of all the things I had to get done. And so one thing I did was I put like a little notebook next to my bed and a pencil or a pen. And so if I woke up in the middle of the night with my overactive thoughts, I would write down the thing I needed to remember, and then I go back to sleep. And that actually really, really helped. So if you have like an overactive brain at night and you can't sleep because you're thinking about stuff, think about putting like a little notebook or a journal or something next to your bed with a pen, and just jot those things down. And know that they'll be there for you in the morning. Like, you don't need to think about it when you're supposed to be sleeping. Go to sleep, get some rest. Another thing for rest is not to have bright lights and devices when you're trying to go to sleep. And I know a lot of people like watch ASMR videos and things like that. Sometimes I will too, just to like kind of block out all those racing thoughts, because sometimes I find it helps distract me from those cycles of thoughts of like, I have to get this done. There's just this problem, and if we can get this problem done, then everything will be okay. So I just keep that pervasive thought, and I'll watch like an ASMR video, like, nothing, really weird, but something just weird enough. Like they're applying like fake makeup or something. I don't know. But I'll watch one of those, and it's so distracting that I can actually break my cycle of thought. But it's really important that you don't have bright lights like a screen in front of your eyes when you're trying to go to sleep. And it will really help the longer you can go without those bright lights before you actually are trying to go to sleep. Because the bright lights mimic daylight, and your brain thinks that bright light means it's daytime and to stay awake. So you're basically your own worst enemy if you're trying to go to sleep and you're watching videos. So if you're watching this video in the middle of the night, you can click save it, and watch the rest of it later. But eliminate bright lights before you're going to sleep. That includes TV, YouTube videos, video games, all that stuff. And you want to kind of like copy daytime getting darker and darker and darker. So like maybe you have bright lights on, you turn off a couple of the lights, and then you turn off a couple of lights, and then you just lay there in the dark, and that will help you go to sleep. My students will often tell me, they'll like fall asleep in class, and I'll say, did you play video games last night? And they're like, yeah, but it's because I can't sleep. I'm like, that's why you can't sleep. And they will be so stubborn and say, no, it's because I can't sleep. I'm playing video games. Like, no, honey, you're in a cycle. Your body thinks it's daytime, and you're doing these fighting games and all that stuff. And your body and your brain, they don't differentiate between I'm running and fighting a blunt-nosed bear and a saber-toothed tiger from I'm playing these fictitious, games, with these bright lights and all this stuff. So you're in fight or flight mode, and it's hard to go to sleep if you're playing video games in the middle of the night. So getting enough rest, avoid not getting enough rest. So video games, TV shows, YouTube videos, whatever it is that you're doing in the at 8 o'clock at night, all of those things, I know that's too early, right? Let's say 9 o'clock at night. So at 8 or 9 o'clock, turn off all those lights and get some rest, because your body needs it, and you're going to feel so much better. If you can think of other things to avoid, go ahead and pop a comment down below, but these are the ones that come to mind. And these are the things that are going to interfere. These are the stumbling blocks that are going to interfere with seeing any progress. So I'm about to tell you some things that, kind of, I'm sure you've heard before, but kind of putting it all in one place. And I'm not going to go like, okay, well, for this benefit, do this. For this benefit, do this. I'm going to kind of put it all together, and it's going to make a lot more sense, because you have one body, one brain, and all of these systems are interrelated. They interact. You have subsystems, and like your respiratory system, your circulatory system, and your nervous system, they all work together. So isolating each thing individually and talking about individual benefits, it all kind of overlaps anyway. So I'm going to kind of put it all together. So if you think of anything else that you need to avoid, pop a comment down below, because this is definitely not comprehensive. And I think that most doctors, talk to your own doctor, but most doctors would say avoid being sedentary is a good thing. If you have like a heart condition or something, please talk to your doctor. But most people, getting up and going for a walk and gardening and that kind of stuff is probably a good thing. Artificial sweeteners, I don't know anybody who is like their life depends on them continuing that behavior. Avoiding mercury is probably a good thing for everybody. Mitigating your stress and getting enough rest, I think these are all like no-brainers. So, talk to your doctor if it's a major change in your lifestyle, because major changes, even if they're good, can be kind of shocking. But let's go ahead and talk about some of the things that you should eat, okay? And my handwriting is getting worse every year, but these are the things that I'm saying that I believe are truly healthy based on multiple infomercials that I've watched. And then I go back, and what I do is I watch the infomercial, I take out all the information, I read a book about it, I do a bunch of research, I read the ingredient label. I'll actually go, like, I bought so many of these products, you guys don't even know. I bought so many of these products, and then my doctor said, well, it's not, it's not certified by the FDA or whatever. I'm like, oh, that's a good point. And how do you know that what it says is in there? And how do you know how much you're supposed to have? And what if you take that and then you're also taking something else, or you're eating those things? How are you regulating all of the things you're supposed to have and what quantity you're supposed to have it? Because even good things like spinach have things like oxalic acid, which is not good for you. Or, there might be some kind of thing in it that no one studied how much you're supposed to have. So I'm going to say I'm not buying the products anymore. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to eat those things that they say are in those products. So one thing that comes up a lot is bitter gourd or bitter melon. Bitter gourd or bitter melon. And I bought a bunch of seeds, lots of different kinds, because I figure I might have some varieties that I like better than others. So bitter gourd or bitter melon. You can also read the Blue Zone diet. That's mentioned a lot. Also, maybe easier than that, blueberries. and probably any kind of berry, but blueberries are like on the top of the list. I would definitely do raspberries, blueberries, strawberries, every kind of berry you can get your hand on. I really love those creeping raspberries. Those are so good. But blueberries are very prolific if you get a really good variety going. And I just planted tons of them. The first several years I was growing them, I had them straight in the ground and they did not do very well. My tip with growing blueberries is to grow them in a large container. And I watched this lady from I think it was Oregon State University. There's something on YouTube and I watched it 10 years ago. She said, and I couldn't find the video again. I tried looking for it. She said that blueberries uptake their nutrients like all the way around. So if you were to do give it nitrogen or something, or give it some acidic peat moss, whatever, in some area, it's not going to uptake what it needs from the whole plant. It will just uptake that one area. I don't know if that's true or not, but I thought that was really interesting. So now whenever I am taking care of my blueberries, whatever I do all the way around the entire pot, not just in one spot or another. And that really seems to have made a difference for my blueberries. I get a really good crop every year. I do now have to, I don't use bird netting because it can kill the birds and I like birds. So the birds have found my blueberries. So I use Tool, and I was using it before I heard the story from Robbie and Gary on their channel. But since they do it so much, I'm going to do a little shout out for them. But they use Tool to keep things out of their desirable crops. And the Tool does not help me with squirrels. Squirrels will chew right through it for me, especially if I use it for my hazelnuts. But the Tool does keep them out of the birds out of my blueberries. So definitely grow blueberries. And I'm going to be trying bitter gourd again. I failed the last couple of years, but I'm going to try it again. Bitter gourd, blueberries. Let's see. Oh, kale is always on the list. And so is broccoli. It's always on the list. Asparagus. And now, along with these, let's see here. They're all leafy greens are probably going to be good to put on there. But kale, broccoli, and asparagus are on everything I've seen listed over and over and over and over again. They'll say for multiple different things, but it's a repeat, so I'm just going to say it the once. I almost forgot to put spinach on here, so definitely put on spinach. And spinach tends to bolt for me. So in summertime, you want to grow spinach in the early spring and growing into the colder, from the colder weather and into the colder weather. It tastes so much better. To me, I think it gets really bitter. So I have a bunch of alternatives, and I'm sure spinach has something special about it because it's on all the lists everywhere. So definitely grow it. But I also grow things like Malabar spinach and New Zealand spinach. New Zealand spinach is so good. I've also recently purchased Molokai, which is a plant that I got from Baker Creek. I also got some from MI Gardener, but they had a different name for it. So there's all different kinds of greens. So you want to have all different kinds of greens. You want to have all different kinds of berries, bitter gourd, bitter melon, and another food that they always say is sweet potatoes. And I struggle growing sweet potatoes in Washington State, but I keep trying. And actually what I did last time, so I had this horror story where I bought 300 sweet potato slips and most of them were dead. So the company gave me a partial refund, and but they sent them to me so late too that I didn't have enough time for them to actually produce any tubers. So what I did was I pulled them all up. I currently have them in water in my classroom, and then later on I'm going to replant them again. And I'm going to just keep doing this over and over again to keep them going, keep them growing, because sweet potatoes take so long to get started. And then once they're started, it takes so long for them to produce the tubers. I'm going to keep trying. If you have any hints, pop them below. But sweet potatoes are always on the list. And sweet potato greens are also edible, not potato greens. Those are toxic, but sweet potato greens are also edible. So they probably also have wonderful benefits for your brain. Another thing they always say on here are nuts, especially Brazil nuts. Those are always listed on almost everything as being very, very good for your brain. I like Brazil nuts, but I don't like love Brazil nuts. I mean, they're pretty good. They're very, very expensive. So if you can afford Brazil nuts, maybe have a couple of those a day. And nuts do tend to go rancid, so you have to be careful. Maybe you could freeze some. Maybe you could grate some up and put them into different things like cookies and things that, kind of trick yourself into getting them into other places of your diet. Maybe put them into, breads or salads. I don't know. I would also say that since I can't grow a Brazil nut tree here, I'm growing every other kind of nut tree I possibly can. My hazelnut trees are doing fabulous. So if you're in the Pacific Northwest, I would highly recommend growing hazelnuts. I'm also growing almonds and chestnuts. The almonds are producing, but not very much yet, and my chestnuts have not produced yet. I've planted walnuts. Walnuts also have, I can't say the word, it's like juglons, and that's a inhibitor that actually is like a hormone that affects other plants and makes them not grow as well. Apparently, what I've read is that pawpaw trees and blueberries are kind of immune to this. They're tolerant of juglons. So, I'm probably saying that so wrong, but this is right. I think it's like juglons. I might be spelling it wrong. And I'm sure that if you put that into a search bar, it will tell you how to really spell it. But walnuts have this. So my workaround for walnuts is that I have one walnut tree that's growing really far off away from everything else, and it's at the base. So I have like a little hill, and then a squirrel planted a walnut tree down low. Okay. And so up here, I have a bunch of other trees and stuff growing. My hope is that the hormones don't spread up, because it's down below. But another workaround is to plant things like blueberries and pawpaw around walnuts, because they're not affected the same. And also, pawpaw trees, when they're first growing, they don't like the sun, and they get burnt so bad. Trust me, I know this part. They get burnt by the sun so badly. So they like to basically grow underneath like a mother tree. So like the fruit will fall down, and then that's where it will grow, right? And so when they're first growing, they like that partial shade. So if you have like a guild and you have your walnut, okay, and then around the guild you have your pawpaw, maybe around in the shade of the walnut tree. And then in between those, you have blueberries. Got some blueberries in there. Then you have this guild that is going to work together. And it's not going to inhibit it. Because like if I was growing apples, I don't really have to be that careful about what I plant around it, because apples don't have this hormone that's going to affect the other plants, but walnuts do. So walnuts, blueberries, and pawpaw trees together. And so that's kind of what I'm trying in Washington State to see if I can get this to grow, because pawpaws are actually from the East Coast. But we're trying that. So as many nuts as you can in your diet, and instead of potato chips, have nuts instead. If you're craving the salty, crunchy stuff, now you know that peanuts are not real nuts, but I'm sure they have some benefits. Maybe not as good as something like a Brazil nut, but I would eat peanuts, cashews are not as beneficial as what I've been reading, but they're so good and they're kind of buttery and creamy. So if you're craving something really bad and you're like a cashew kind of hits that spot for you, that's better than having the chips and, all of those fake things that have so many preservatives and whatever. Almonds, pecans, walnuts, whatever. As many different nuts as you can in your diet. We are omnivores, by the way, too. So you don't want to have a diet where you eat just all the same things all the time, because there will be like little holes of, what nutrients you're missing. So the more varied your diet is, the better, as long as it's things that don't have a bunch of preservatives and artificial sweeteners and, things like that. So right now I'm thinking, okay, bitter melon, bitter gourd, blueberries, kale, broccoli, asparagus, spinach, sweet potatoes, nuts. And I will also say eggs. And I remember when I was a kid, there was like this whole campaign against eggs about how unhealthy eggs are, but they're actually super healthy. One of my favorite meals is a baked potato with green beans and an egg. And the egg substitutes butter for me on the potato. So that's a great alternative right there. If you do like an egg not sunny side up, but like a poached egg, or egg over medium, egg over easy, and you put that over your potato, yum. And if it's a potato you grew in your garden, even better, right? So everything in moderation. And when I make changes, I should say, I find that my behavior can change better if I do it more gradual and not in such a shocking manner. I did the low carb diet for years, and I lost a lot of weight, and I still might do that again ish, but not completely, because I don't want to have an all or nothing exclusive diet where it's like you had one soda and now you're like the devil. I want to make sure that there is flexibility for life. So having this, did you have something like this in your diet every single day? Oh, I almost forgot grapes. Now with my grapes, I'm going to say with seeds. And I want you to do your own research on this. But, and I'm also going to add pomegranates. So pomegranates and grapes. When I have grapes with seeds, which I grow them in my front yard over an arbor, and it almost tastes like pomegranates because the grapes I grow are tiny and they have seeds in them. And I used to like try to spit all the seeds out because I have this thing with seeds where I want to grow all of them. So I try to spit out all the seeds and save them, cold storage, stratify them, and plant them. But I was like, you know what? This is so crazy. We are, as a culture, like those big, you know what? Everybody likes them. They're so good. Those really giant grocery store bought grapes are so yummy. But that's not what I'm talking about. We've basically, as a culture, have gotten rid of the seeds in the grapes. And then they turn around and sell us grapeseed extract, which is like ironic, right? So take it out of the food that we eat. So they were like, oh, it's seedless grapes. We like seedless grapes. We like seedless watermelon. And then sell us back the grapeseed extract. I'm like, you know what? No. I'm going to keep growing my seeded grapes, and I'm going to eat the grapes with the seeds in them. And they are absolutely delicious and very, very beneficial. So think about grapeseed extract and just grapes with seeds. And you can grow those at home. They grow very, very well, very vigorously. They're easy to propagate from cuttings. Love them. And then also grape leaves are also edible. And there's all kinds of recipes out there for Middle Eastern dishes. Wrapping the grape leaf around like rice when you cook it. I haven't done it yet, but one of my students brought some in for like a culture night, and it was really good. Pomegranates They're kind of expensive. I do have a couple pomegranate trees that are still alive that I bought from like Safeway. It's crazy. They had them for sale for like $5, and in the pot was like 3 or 4 trees for $5. And I bought a cold hardy pomegranate tree, and that cold hardy pomegranate tree I spent over $100 for. It died when it got down to under 15 degrees here. So I'm going to keep trying to grow the pomegranate trees that I have. I'm going to try to boost their nutrients and see what I can do. Maybe up pot them, see if I can get them to produce fruit, because they finally flowered. And I'm so excited because that would be amazing to have my own pomegranates. So, and I'm telling you the truth about the eggs. The eggs, the creamy, liquidy part of the egg, the yolk, when you cook it and you like, melt it, it almost tastes like butter to me. So these are on almost all of the different diets, like the Blue Zone diet, all those infomercials that they show, these items are almost on every single one of them. So bitter gourd, bitter melon, blueberries, all different kinds of berries, kale, broccoli, asparagus, spinach, sweet potatoes, nuts, eggs, grapes, and pomegranates. So if you think I've left something out, make sure you pop a comment, but I'm trying to do a kind of a short list to make it easy for folks. Oh, avocados. Avocado. I spelled that correctly. Avocado. Okay, I used to be really good at spelling, but that's what I'm talking about for memory. I'm not making this video just for you guys. It's kind of like a diary because I need to do this more too. I am a creature of habit. I could eat the same meal every single day. And then in fact, for like, I would say 3 years, I had a baked potato with green beans for dinner every day for 3 years when I was single. And I was fine with that. And every day for lunch, I'd have like a budget lean cuisine or something like, and oatmeal for breakfast. So, and a banana. But it's important as omnivores that we don't do that, that we get a varied diet. Now, for a couple days in a row, it's fine, but you don't want to go years eating just the same meal every time, because then there'll be holes in the nutrients that you actually need. You need to have a varied diet. They say kale, broccoli, asparagus, and spinach, but I would venture to say things like collard greens, Malabar spinach, New Zealand spinach, Molokai. What other kind of greens? Like purslane. Oh, I didn't put that on the list. They don't talk about purslane. It's kind of like underrated in the United States. Purslane, it's also called verdolaga in Mexico, and it's sold in markets and stuff all around the world. It's a low growing, well, the uncultivated type, the wild type, is a low growing plant. It's kind of succulent. And when you flip the leaves over, they're kind of shiny, like silver. They're really beautiful. And kind of tart, kind of gives you the sorrel kind of flavor, lemon. So definitely grow purslane. No one ever mentions purslane, but it's really, really good. And there were some other berries that I've researched that are really hard to grow, not very prolific, that people will mention on some of them, but I'm kind of spacing out right now. I'll think about it later. If I remember other ones, I'll make comments. But also you want to grow aronia berry. And you could grow things like currants. Currants are really good, but aronia berry is really good for like UTIs and that kind of stuff. So I'm always going to include it. It also stays on the plant for a long time. So like it has a really thick outer skin, and animals don't tend to eat it first. So I'm also thinking about like the garden and what's easy to grow. What can you actually accomplish through gardening? So aronia berry for sure. All different kinds of berries, especially blueberries and aronia. Make sure you grow purslane. All the different kinds of greens, but especially the ones I listed. Bitter melon is supposed to be like anti-cancerous and all kinds of stuff. I don't like it, but I'm gonna make myself eat it and try to like it. I'm gonna try to like it. So all of these different things here, I know I'm forgetting some of them, but I've done a lot of research on this, and I'm telling you, whenever I watch those, like Dr. Gundry, Gundry, his videos, and I've purchased so many products. On mushrooms. I almost forgot mushrooms. Now, I don't grow mushrooms. I have purchased some of those kits, and they're really fun. But one thing I was going to tell you about mushrooms is this is kind of crazy. Do your own research, but this is what I heard. So everyone's saying, okay, you need to have vitamin D. In Washington State, almost everybody has a vitamin D deficiency because we don't get enough sunshine, and especially in the fall and winter. But what I heard, fact check me on this, but what I heard is mushrooms, if you put them out in the sunlight for like 15-20 minutes and then eat them, they will absorb vitamin D, and that's how you can get it into your diet in a natural way, because vitamin D is something that your body actually gets, like there's processes that your body goes through to make the vitamin D. So it's not something that you get from your food, but there's like this workaround that I've heard. Okay, I'm maybe calling old wives' tale, I'm not sure. But what I heard was if you take mushrooms and you put them out in the sunshine 15-20 minutes, and then you prepare them and eat them in your salad, cook them, whatever, then they will have absorbed the vitamin D for you. Mushrooms are very interesting. I don't hear enough people talking about them. Of course, the people who are selling the mushroom coffees are talking about them. I do have a mushroom coffee that I purchased. I think it's called Mudwater. Some of the different ones I'm not going to say because I'm not going to read the labels right now, but some of the different mushroom coffees don't have very much mushroom in it. It's like coffee mixed with mushrooms. But some of the mushroom coffees are only mushrooms, and they'll have like lion's mane and all different kinds of mushrooms. Read the labels when you go to like check out, like click through all the pictures and zoom in to look at all the ingredient lists. Don't just take their word for it. Look at the ingredients, because they're required by law to list all their ingredients. And if all the ingredients are mushrooms, then that's what you want to get. But I don't grow my own mushrooms yet because they scare me. When I was a child and I lived in Germany, there was like this whole group of people who were hikers, and I heard about it on the news, in the radio in the car, and they died because they were foraging for mushrooms and they made a mistake. There was a lookalike mushroom for something, and they ate them and they all died. A bunch of people died. So, mushrooms kind of scare me, but I'm also very excited about them. Let me tell you about mushrooms is that their cell structure is very interesting. So like our cell structure, we have, cell membrane, and plants have cell membrane and cell walls that are made of cellulose. And mushrooms have cell walls that are made of chitin. That's fuzz on here. Chitin, and chitin is in the exoskeletons of crustaceans. And so it's super weird because mushrooms, the fungi, are kind of like in this weird kingdom between plants and animals. So plants, animals, and fungi are different. They're three different kingdoms. But mushrooms, like fungi, are like kind of in the middle between plants and animals, if you think about it that way. Their cell structure is really strange because they have chitin in the outside of their cells. And that chitin, if you read research papers all about like seafood, all the seafood stuff, right? How good it's for you. Chitin is one of the reasons. Chitin and omega-3s. So chitin and omega-3s. And if you think about like Mercury and then all the toxic sludge in the oceans from Fukushima and that kind of stuff, it's really dangerous. But purslane has omega-3s and mushrooms have chitin. So by eating purslane and mushrooms, you're getting the benefit of what would be in seafood. So I think that's really powerful, and I don't hear anybody talking about that. But I hope that you will add mushrooms to your diet. And I would definitely recommend, doing your own research. But somewhere down the line, I'm going to start growing my own. I just don't have the courage to do it yet, but I'm going to. Someday I will. I just want to make sure I don't hurt anybody or hurt myself. My fear is like sometimes I'll be growing plants and I'll have mushrooms popping up all over my garden, which that whole network underneath is helping your plant life to grow. But the mushrooms are the fruiting body of the mycelium, and my fear is that I'll be growing mushrooms and then a lookalike will pop up in the same area, and then we'll eat it and die. Dun dun dun. So I'm kind of sticking to what I know and what I like. I do like the mushroom coffees, the true mushroom coffee, where it has like lion's mane and all these other mushrooms. It's so good. I like it with cinnamon. A little bit of cinnamon in there. It tastes so yummy. You could also make it like I always say it wrong. It's like they call it chai tea, but it's like saying tea because chai is tea in Indian. So it's like a chai if you put some cream and cinnamon and stuff like that in there. It tastes so good. So mushroom coffee is really good, but also I like just the regular store-bought mushrooms. They're so delicious if you're making up a meal, or I love them in salads too. So like a salad with all these different greens and sunflowers. I almost forgot sunflowers. So sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds. Okay. And I want to do some research on different kinds of squash seeds because I do wonder about all the different pumpkins and squash seeds, which ones are edible or not. I think they're all edible, but I don't know, and I don't want to say so. So I want to do some more research on different kinds of pumpkin seeds. Sunflower seeds are delicious, so you put sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, a little bit of avocado, mushrooms, purslane, kale, broccoli, asparagus, spinach. You can even slice up strawberries and blueberries in a salad. Yum. That's amazing. Even put in some walnuts. Wow. That's amazing. That would be a wonderful meal. Some hard-boiled eggs in there on the side of grapes or pomegranate, like that would be a delightful meal that would be very, very healthy. And I wonder if you just did one meal a day of like a really excellent salad, maybe for lunch, where you have like almost all of these things on here, try it for like a month and see if you feel better. If you feel like you remember things better, your memory seems a little bit better or improved cognition. I bet your gut will even feel better. I'm definitely all for making some changes for the new year and for my life. I've done all this research and I do it again and again and again. Every year I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that. Oh yeah. Yeah, get it, forget it. I forgot it. I learned it and I forgot it. I learned it and I forgot it. So this year is going to be all about actually utilizing and incorporating the things that I've learned over decades of what needs to be in our diet. I grow all of these things. I do let some things go to waste. I do let some things go to the birds. I do believe in that thing of like sharing with nature, but I really need to do a better job of making sure that we actually eat all the things we grow. It's kind of funny because I do watch Robbie and Gary, their channel, and she always says at the end, like, don't forget to eat what you grow. Girl, I need to remember that. Like, I do need to remember that. I'll grow them. I love to watch the whole life cycle of my plants. I get so excited about it. I'm like, oh, wow, look at the seeds. And I am a seed fanatic. I love seeds. But I always think about each seed as a life. So sometimes I have a hard time eating seeds. I know that sounds crazy. Am I crazy? But if I have a sunflower, the idea of eating all of the seeds from the sunflower, kind of makes me sad because I'm like, that could be hundreds of sunflowers, Or like eating the seed from my grapes, I feel kind of guilty in the beginning. And then I was like, oh my God, this is so good. Imagine how much money I saved on grapeseed extract, right? Now, if I buy sunflower seeds that are already toasted or something, I'm fine because I know I can't grow anything. If I buy a thing of pumpkin seeds, I'm fine because they've already been toasted and salted and stuff. And so I know that they're dead and I'm not going to hurt anything by eating it. But if I know that it's a raw seed, I have a really hard time eating the seed, even if I know it's healthy for me, because I'm thinking that I'm killing the plant. So I'm probably not the only one who feels that way, but I need to get over it because it's so healthy for you. I need to think of it like, okay, well, if I grow a sunflower, and there's 300 seeds, I'm going to save 30 and I'm going to toast and eat the rest of them, right? Or if I have a pumpkin and there's 500 seeds, I don't know how many seeds, 100 seeds, 500 seeds, I'm going to save 10, 20% of them, and the rest we're going to actually eat. Okay? So, definitely grow a garden. And I'm going to try growing bitter gourd or bitter melon again this year. I've got I think all the different varieties that Baker Creek has. The variety that, and my gardener, I think he has one variety for sale there, $2. I think you get 5 seeds for $2. And then I've got all different kinds of kales, spinaches, mosh or corn salad, all different kinds of lettuces and things like that, all the different kinds of greens. I like a really crunchy salad that has a lot in it, not just one type. And I will be honest, iceberg lettuce or romaine lettuces are my favorite because of the crunchiness. They don't tend to have the highest value, nutritionally speaking. So, I'm going to try to still have those, but have them at as 30, 40% of the salad and have a lot of these other things in there. So it's not, it's more diverse in what I'm eating. So I hope that this has been helpful. And I think this is going to really help with stress and depression, memory loss, confusion, indecisiveness, things like that. I've over the years, it's become harder and harder for me to make decisions. Even my penmanship, my handwriting has gotten worse and worse, which I find kind of scary. My penmanship was never beautiful, but it was better than this. And I did see my dad's penmanship get worse and worse and worse and worse until eventually you couldn't read it at all. And he died of Parkinsonism this summer. So I'm trying to combat some genetic factors, which I don't know if it's genetic, honestly, because I was going through my family tree on myheritage.com, and I saw some family members who lived to be over 100 years old in my family tree. And I also saw some that lived to be 51, 45, 40, 41, in their 30s, didn't survive childhood. So, but it's there. The possibility of a long life is there for all of us. And we can combat the effects of what is happening in our food, in our, in our grocery stores, in agriculture, in the stressful environment we live in by gardening, because your garden is going to provide you with opportunities to be active, right? So we're not going to be sedentary. We're going to be really active, and we are going to make sure that our neurons are firing, and the synapses and the neurotransmitters that are, relaying these messages throughout our bodies are improved. So we got to think about these little guys. Okay, think about each cell almost like a living organism, but they're all part of us. But if they're not relaying the messages to our brains, then our memory is going to get worse, and our cognition, our ability to make decisions is going to get worse and worse and worse. And if we're not vitamin C and vitamin D and omega-3 fatty acids and all of this, then even if we live a long time, it will be suffering. So I don't want that for you. I don't want that for me or my family. I want us to have long, healthy lives where we enjoy every minute of them. And I'll tell you, the years where I did low carb for like, I would do like 1 year, 1.5 years, and then I'd go off and then I'd go back to it. I felt better, but I'm not a big meat eater. I can't sit down. I don't eat pork. I don't eat fish because I don't like fish. But I basically only eat beef and chicken and turkey. And so I was always a really picky eater, like even when I was little. So it was really hard for me to try new things. I kind of get grossed out about mushrooms. Now I love mushrooms. I hated tomatoes. Now I love tomatoes. I only like tomatoes that I grew though, or that grew like in sunshine. Like I don't know what it is. There's a flavor difference. It's so different. Oh, about tomatoes. Let me tell you about tomatoes. So, if you watch Tomatoes, Dr. Gundry, Gundry, I mean, all these doctors, they have these like really long infomercials, and then at the end they want to sell you something. But it doesn't mean that what their research includes is incorrect, or it's manipulative or something. They actually do believe in their products. Now, I'm not going to buy any more of their products because I feel like we were supposed to get all the nutrients from our food. He talks about tomatoes being really bad. And like, I don't remember because memory issues. Hello. I don't remember what it was exactly, but he said it was in the skins and the seeds. I'm still going to eat cherry tomatoes with the seeds and the skins. But one of the things I didn't like about tomatoes as a kid growing up is I didn't like the squishiness inside the seeds. So, one thing I would say is there is a kind of tomato. It's like a stuffer tomato. Like you stuff the tomato. It's like literally it's almost like a bell pepper because it has a hollow chamber. And I've got seeds somewhere. I want to remember to grow them next year because I keep thinking how delicious that would be to have stuffed tomatoes. Well, if you scrape out all the seeds, and I have this whole thing with seeds, right, where I want to grow them, not eat them. So if I squeeze out the seeds or, scoop out the seeds, then I have the seeds to grow next year and I'm not wasting anything. Then you fill up the tomato with, rice and meat or onions, whatever you want to have. I like to put sloppy Joe mix in there, like a sloppy Joe inside of a bell pepper. So I'm going to try that with tomatoes. I think that'd be really good. And so you're not getting the seeds then. If you're having stuffed tomatoes, that would be a really great way to use the tomatoes where you're not having the seeds, which apparently is the big issue where Dr. Gundry says that they are like anti-nutrient, something like that. So do some research on him. You might search like Gundry tomato seed or Gundry, something like that. But I remember watching one of his infomercials for like a long, long time. And I was like, oh my God, I love tomatoes now. But what, and I thought it was kind of interesting that he was talking about the seeds being bad for you. Like they're technically edible, but they're bad for you. Anything in really high excess, like kale and stuff, they have, oxalic acid, which is bad for you in really high numbers. That's why I'm saying we have to realize that we are omnivores, and that omnivore doesn't just mean it does mean that you eat plants and animals, but it also means that you have a very varied diet. You eat a lot of things, a lot of different things, and basically we are opportunistic eaters, and we will eat whatever is available at the time. So we need to learn how to make these things available to us all the time, whether that means freeze drying, making, preserves, freezing things, whatever. We need to have these things available to us all the time, and not just have a very limited diet, but have a lot of different colors, a lot of different varieties of things. Like I wouldn't just even grow one kind of kale. I'd grow I've got seeds for 100 different kinds of kale, lots of different types of broccoli. There's lots of different types of asparagus. And I grow some asparagus from the crowns. I grow some asparagus from seeds. So you want to have a lot of different things. And it's okay to take a couple days break from a certain food. And you probably don't want to do what I did for years, which was to eat the same dinner every single day. But let's say a salad every day doesn't mean it has to be the same salad every day. So you could have a salad that has broccoli and kale one day, and one that has collard greens and asparagus and sunflower seeds another day. And another day you could have one that has strawberries in it with different, whatever, you get my point, right? So that it's really not the same stuff, but it could be the same style every day. I find that I am a creature of habit, and if you are also a creature of habit, that idea of like, even if you're doing a soup, let's say you have a soup for dinner every night, but it's a different soup for dinner every night, right? I didn't put beans on here. I don't hear a lot of people talking about beans when they're talking about superfoods, but I would definitely include beans in my diet for sure. Definitely. I like fava beans. They're very, very good. And also there's some kind of edible quality to the plant, like the tips of the plant or something. I haven't eaten them. I would include beans for sure. But these are the plants. These are the foods. The mushrooms aren't plants. But the ones I hear all the time. Pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, mushrooms, tomatoes, but not with the seeds. Okay, so like if I'm going to make a caprese salad, I could squeeze out the seeds and then I'm still going to have the skin. Okay, I'm not going to go that crazy. But if I'm going to make like a pasta sauce or marinara, you could boil or blanch the tomatoes and remove the skin, and then compost the skin as well. And if you do that for a while and you see some kind of positive side effect, like if you take off the skin and the seeds and you eat a lot of tomatoes and you notice something improves, please pop a comment and let me know, because I do think that kind of subjective, like personal testimony is powerful, because I haven't tried that yet, but I'm going to see if those changes make a difference. Think about these little neurons in your body. Think about these things that we're going to avoid doing, like do something every day. Even if it's something small. I even thought about like make a list. Let's say you have a list of 6 activities that you're willing to do. And if you have a hard time making a decision, roll the dice and say, okay, well, it landed on a 2. Number 2 was, take a 5-minute walk. And if you roll a 6, maybe it's, put on music and dance for 10 minutes. So whatever it is, stop being sedentary. Gardening is a great way to avoid that. Eliminate artificial sweeteners. I am going to still have sweeteners, but I'm going to be using natural, like stevia. I'm going to be using like sugar beets. And I figure it this way. If I grew it and it's an edible thing, if I grew something edible, then I can eat it, because all the energy and time I put into that, I deserve it. I can't justify candy. I can't justify that kind of stuff, because it would have taken so long to get all of those things. It's not even possible. So I really try to stick to as natural as possible. Avoid poisons, avoid preservatives if possible. Try to mitigate stress and make sure that you get enough rest, because all of these things here, like, I don't even know all of this would matter, or you would even see the effect if we did these things. If we were sedentary and we were drinking soda or diet soda, even if we're, doing drugs, drinking alcohol. I didn't even write that down here, but that's one of the things too. Avoid alcohol and drugs. Make sure you get enough rest. Find ways to deal with stress. Some people, that's listening to music, it's dancing, it's going for a run, it's working out, it's talking to friends, maybe talking to a therapist, it's, clocking out when you clock out and not doing work at home. You know, whatever it is for you. For me, it's gardening. It's going outside and feeding the birds. It's praying. It's a prayer. It's, you know, looking at pictures. It's doing our project, crocheting, whatever. So find ways to deal with our crazy, hectic, insane lives. And then when you're growing your garden, consider growing some of these things. Is there anything on this list that you're not growing yet? Have you tried growing bitter gourd? Do you have blueberries and other kinds of berries growing in your garden? Are you growing purslane, sweet potatoes, broccoli, asparagus, spinach? Are you growing any nuts? Like I am growing hazelnuts like no tomorrow. It's amazing, but the squirrels keep getting to them. Should I do a live trap and locate my squirrels? There's a really big park. I think they'd be happy there. I'm thinking about it because they're funny. They're funny when they throw cherries at me and stuff, but it's not funny when they dig up my seedlings and eat the whole tree. Like if I'm planting a nut tree, they will actually like eat the tree. Like it's insane. So I'm thinking about relocating them, but all of these different things to grow. Mushrooms, man, that's something I want to get into later. But I'm telling you, like the chitin, this is like blows my mind that they're not talking about this, but the mushrooms have the chitin in their cell walls, and chitin, and then also with people with purslane, they have omega-3 fatty acids. I think I can get the benefit of seafood without having to eat it. So anyway, guys, I hope that you have gained something from this kind of longer video than I wanted to, but I'm not selling you anything. I'm just trying to help you guys understand how you can use gardening as a way to increase longevity, quality of life, boost memory, and all of those wonderful things that we sometimes buy into and waste money on products and then can't afford it and just stop cold turkey. So I really hope that this is helping, and I hope that you'll add some comments to the video on the comment area. What are you growing that you think is really beneficial, especially to brain health? That's something I really want to focus on today with today's video because, like I mentioned, I don't know. I had COVID. I've had COVID several times, but I had COVID in 2020, and I really noticed I got hit hard. And I actually had like MRIs and CAT scans and all kinds of stuff. Not quite sure what's going on with me, but I've noticed some things that kind of scare me. And so I want to really focus on using my garden for my health. And I've been doing that, and I know it's helping, but I need to do it more. And I think we all can do more. So I really want to focus on some of the things that I know really, really, really are going to be beneficial. And I've been growing sunflowers, but I've been growing them for the birds. I want to grow some more giant mammoth type sunflowers. I will sometimes buy seeds from nuts.com, and I will buy raw sunflower seeds. One year I bought some that were grown in Israel that were giant, huge, really huge seeds. And they are, since they're raw, they grow. So I want to do that again. I think possibly I want to grow lots of for their seeds, and I want to make pumpkin pie and all that kind of stuff too. I think that'd be nice, but I really want to grow them for the seeds because the seeds are so healthy for our brains. Okay, so anyways, you know what I say at the end of my videos: be good, be sweet, grow a garden if you want to eat, and I will see you next time.